Thank you, May. So I'm going to do my best to present on behalf of our review committee the outcomes, the process, and the outcomes of this review process. So why did we want to do this? From the US and OCB and CLIVAR perspectives, we wanted to conduct this review to assess how well these GOSHIP data sets are supporting the research of our respective communities. So that was really our motivation in facilitating this process. Why now? Lynn has already told you that, or Allison's already told you that. Our purpose was to inform the renewal process that will be happening over the next year for US GOSHIP. I believe they'll be submitting renewal proposal to NSF at least in early 2020. The scope, as US programs, US CLIVAR and OCB, it was not within our capacity or appropriate for us to review the international GOSHIP in the context of GOOS. Our purpose was only to look at the US-based GOSHIP effort. So that is all that is part of this review. The evaluation components of the review are listed here. Planning and implementation of the program, cruise planning, data outcomes, the scientific outcomes in terms of carbon, looking at water mass evolution, heat budgets, a whole variety of outcomes. And Allison and I could probably present a whole slide presentation just on the science outcomes of this program. It's quite impressive. Leveraging, we talked about these ancillary L3 add-ons and also the use of these data sets for calibration and validation purposes. The workforce, the science and technical capacity of the people that are making this program happen, its leadership, its training and mentoring capacity, the ships themselves in terms of being able to support all of the measurements that the program makes and having the endurance to do so, and the coordination and communication efforts of the program. So phase one was happening right after OCB last year, actually. We started the process, the review committee selection process. This was, we had a lot of input from the OCB Scientific Steering Committee as well as the US CLIVAR Phenomena, Observations, and Synthesis panel. And these people in orange are the heroes who stepped up and were willing to put the effort into making this important process happen and improving the program for our community as a whole. So if you see them, buy them a beer. None of them could unfortunately be here at the meeting, and so that is why I am standing up here, but it's really been a collaborative effort, and so I want to make sure to acknowledge them here. Phase two was a community survey that we all worked on, developing questions for this. We had about a total of 118 people, and the survey was designed such that there were questions for everybody all across GOSHIP, and then we had targeted questions for different affiliations with GOSHIP. So PIs, leadership, data users, international affiliates, and others. And we're actually going to be publishing those survey results as part of the report that comes out of this, so they will be for public viewing. Just a couple of things I wanted to show you from the survey results. Just a look at the demographics for the survey takers. You can get a sense of the broad distribution of people who took the survey. And these were the different affiliations with GOSHIP, US GOSHIP, that we included in the survey. So we got feedback from multiple perspectives on the program, which was really useful. This slide speaks for itself in terms of the importance of US GOSHIP data sets and supporting the science goals and the research of our respective communities. I had to put this up here because you can see in green that most of the community views this as a critical resource for this community. Much of the carbon budgeting and carbon analysis that we've done, at least from the OCP perspective, is because of this program. Just a fun little word cloud to kind of highlight some of the cool science that's come out of it. We've seen consistently high quality data sets or very strict data standards for at least the L1 and even the L2 measurements in cases to monitor variability. We have full water column measurements coast to coast, as Lynn said, repeat access to some of these remote and undersampled regions. And it's really a global program. It's supporting a lot of the science we're doing on the oceans and the climate system. It's providing validation data sets for modeling, calibration for autonomous platforms, a tremendous resource for early career community, early career development, and also providing context for planning regional scale process studies. And this was cited a lot in the review comments. From the early career perspective, this was just nothing but positive feedback here. This program has just been instrumental, not to put a pun out there, but it's been a tremendous resource for advancing early career members of our community, many of whom have gone on to become chief scientists and so on, but a lot of positive feedback. A really great learning opportunity when you go out there, not just for data collection, but to see the QC in action and to be involved in all of the networking and collaborations and publications that come out afterwards. Phase 3 was our site visit, which actually Allison presented some really nice slides that were just a small fraction of all of the presentations we had. The site visit included members of the Executive Council, the lead ghost ship PIs, at least one of them. The government was shut down during our site visit, so that was a bit problematic. We ended up having to have a follow-up web conference with all of the NOAA participants so that we could get their feedback as well because they couldn't come to the site visit. But members of the review committee, US ghost ship PIs and Executive Council, some of the staff that are involved in making the program happen, we're all in a room together, along with Mike Patterson and I from CLIVAR and OCB. And it was we had all presentations on the program from the US ghost ship folks, and then the review committee got up and gave a presentation of the survey results. And then it was just Q&A and discussion and clarification. And I can tell you that the review committee met exhaustively throughout this process. We must have had every meal together and just had some really great discussions. And so I feel like this was a good, robust process that we went through. And phase 4 is the report, which we are working on right now. I was actually working on this the week before OCB and unexpectedly putting this presentation together. I'm happy to say we have a full working draft of the report now. It includes the following sections. And what I'm going to focus on now, primarily at the rest of the presentation, are the primary findings and recommendations from the report. So the general impressions, I've tried to highlight in orange so that things jump out at you, as things in orange always do for me. It is a high impact program. It's a critical platform, and the ocean and climate research that have come out of it have been tremendously impactful. A lot of the tools and the synthesis products that have come out of it are widely used globally, not just here in the US. The US program is a really strong leader in the international ghost ship. That came through very, very clearly. I'm not sure what the exact number is, but it's close to 50% of the lines that are being occupied are US planned. Consistently high quality data sets. This is critical for our community. We have to have climate quality data sets, and we can really trust these data sets. It's very important. It's a well-run program with the funding that it has. These people make very good use of their funds, and they're putting tremendous amounts of time on it. Opportunities for early career scientists. These are career building opportunities. These cruises and the papers and products that come out of them. And the support for autonomous platform development, new technology testing and deployment is tremendous. It's a great piggybacking operation. So bottom line, that's the punchline, is that the program should be continued and even enhanced, as you'll see in the more detailed recommendations that I've come out with now. One of the big concerns for us, or the review committee, was succession planning. The program leadership And the PI is running a lot of the measurements, as well as the PIs running GoShip and submitting these proposals. They're mid to senior level PIs, and many of them, at least in some cases, are approaching retirement or will at some point. A lot of the people in charge of different measurement programs are approaching retirement. A lot of people in charge of some of the QC and critical data products are approaching retirement. Succession planning is critical in a program, and this has the potential to be an Achilles heel for this program. And so this was something that came through very strongly in the reviewer comments. There's not a formalized mechanism in this program to enable leadership transition and ensure that the knowledge transfer that needs to happen will keep maintaining these high quality data sets. So that's a big issue. Recommendations. These are a couple of things that were discussed among the review committee, including a formal training or apprenticeship program for key components of the program, like the QC of the data collection, the data analysis, and even the data management. All of these things are critical, and we need to make sure that we can continue the high quality that we've been used to over the last decade. Also, identifying and training new talent. The way that we ensure the next generation of leaders is to broaden our reach and train new talent, to come on these cruises and learn and become chief scientists and then take over certain aspects of the program. So finding ways to do that, and communication is a big one, which you'll see later on in my slides right here. As a matter of fact, broadening opportunities. There are still, believe it or not, I mean, in this room, most of us know what GoShip is, but there are still a lot of people in the ocean and climate communities that are unaware of US GoShip's cruises and opportunities, and it's tremendous value in terms of career development. So they're not being, communication seems to be not as frequent, not as consistent as it could be. And so if we want to broaden the reach of the program, we need more consistent and effective communication of seagoing opportunities so we can broaden participation and train new talent. And it's seen from outside of the community that the process for adding level 3 activities, as Allison pointed out, seems a little bit ad hoc. There needs to be some sort of a formalized application and review process for doing these add-on measurements to support community. Vessels. Vessels is a big concern. So GoShip cruises require global class vessels in terms of the endurance of the ship, the deck space, the berthing space, the lab spaces. They need global class vessels, and we have a few of them, but there aren't any plans on the horizon for building new ones. We got big plans for regional vessels, but not a lot of plans for global vessels. Some of these vessels are aging, some of them are going through midlife refits, but this is problematic. So we think that the Executive Council needs to engage with UNOLS proactively to ensure that new global class research vessels are on the horizon. And also with some of the issues we've had, the Ronald Brown, which is the NOAA ship, has been cited as particularly problematic in this regard. And there's no midlife refit in the works for that ship, so it's kind of a fix it as it breaks approach. So factoring extra time into crew schedules would be really advantageous so that the PIs can be sure to accomplish all of their goals, their data collection goals on the cruises. Data collection, QC, reporting, and access. I want to start by saying this program is doing a bang-up job with all and most of this because this takes a tremendous amount of effort. It's really hard to maintain the kind of data quality that GoShip maintains with all of these ships, PIs, chief scientists, and rotating personnel that are coming through. So the data tend to be served by multiple groups. I cited the ADCP here as an example of this, which can make it more challenging to access, and the review committee had the perception that maybe these data sets are underutilized as a result. All of this information is compiled on a table on a website. It's called the Hydro Table. And I think there could be a better format for that, or the review committee thinks there could be a better format for that. That's very vulnerable to becoming outdated because that is the central information place. That's where people go to figure out where the data are and who the chief scientist was and what data sets were collected, what L3 data sets were added, ancillary data sets were collected during that cruise. CTD and oxygen data are currently quite cumbersome to download. If you're a modeler and you want to download the whole data set in one file, you can't do that. You can do it for the bottle data, which is how we got GLODAP, but the CTD and oxygen data don't have that, and so I think that there would be a lot more large-scale modeling type use of those data sets if we had some way of downloading them in a better form. There was a few comments about delays in posting data sets, and this is really on the PIs who are submitting the data, so the data managers need to be a little more stringent about ensuring that the PIs are submitting in the requested formats. And the lack of credit given to the PIs and the data collection efforts is a big issue in GOSHIP. So, recommendations. A more formalized mechanism for transfer of knowledge and ensuring uniformity of process. And I've alluded to this throughout the whole presentation, but continuing training and updates of the Hydro Manual. There's a Hydro Manual. It's a central manual that has all of the protocols. That is a living document. That document is never done. And somebody needs to take ownership over updating that all the time to ensure that things are measured the same way so that we are able to compare. Dedicated person to continually update that would be useful and ensure access to all cruise data so that people can find the data as soon as they look at that table and there aren't broken links or anything like that. A concatenated CTD and oxygen data product, preferably annually updated, would probably make much better use of those data. Ensuring that PIs adhere to proper data forming guidelines, I already talked about that. And there's also talk, and I think this is already underway, to assign DOIs to US GOSHIP data sets and products to increase discoverability, track data usage, which would be nice to put numbers on that, and also credit the data providers. The people who are putting so much labor into collecting these data sets should be getting credit for this. Funding and strategic planning. We all live in a level funding world. That's just reality. But costs are going up, and the demands on the program are going up. And there's a water budget on these cruises. That's the reality. And so there's a lot of concern about, how can we keep doing more with the same amount of money? There's very limited support for follow-up science and data analysis that are so critical to ensuring program impact. So the people that are getting on these cruises, the chief scientists who are going on these cruises are putting their hearts and souls into planning these cruises, but there's no money for them to get any publications or do any of this work. Historically, there's been real difficulty for members of the US community to acquire funding to do these types of analyses that are these are hugely impactful for this community. And lastly, a lack of a cohesive vision, a scientific vision for the program and operational vision for the program. So the recommendation is a strategic plan that provides a compelling science and operational vision for the program to help justify increased support for science and data analysis, additional parameters, as Allison was pointing out earlier. In talking briefly with Rick Wanenkoff, we think this would be most useful on an international level to provide broad oversight and help be an umbrella for all of the various national contributions to to the International GOSHIP program. Rather than writing a US strategic plan, we think that it would be more effective as an international plan. Program implementation. I've already alluded to some of this as well. Program operations rely heavily on a few very busy people and limited staff. The chief and co-chief scientists get some compensation, limited compensation for the heavy-duty logistics that goes into planning this, but they get no money to do science. So they collect the data and hand them over, and somebody else publishes them. So we're hoping that the DOI thing and trying to increase the communication and crediting will help with this. Program communication, coordination, and transparency are sometimes lacking or inconsistent. There's also this element of the CLIVAR and Carbon Hydrographic Data Office, CCHDO, which is the central data management, probably the most prominent data management body for GoShip. They're also providing a lot of data management for international GoShip, but they don't get funding for this. And so there's a question of how sustainable that is. So after all of this, I would say our overarching recommendations would be to get some centralized support for this. This could be a half to a full-time person to help with some of the administrative coordination and communication tasks. Chief and co-chief scientists support communications. I know that a new website is underway for US GoShip, which will be phenomenal for engaging broader support. Executive council support and coordination with international GoShip. And maybe formalizing some of the policies and procedures a bit more. We talked about the L3 application and review process, executive council leadership rotation, measurement specs, and progression procedures or protocols for the L1, 2, and 3 parameters. And it goes on and on. I don't want to take up too much more time because I'm out of time. So take-home messages. The US GoShip is a lean machine right now. They are doing the absolute best possible job they can do for this community with the funding that they have, and it's quite impressive. Succession planning needs attention. We're building some regional class vessels, but what about global class vessels? We need centralized coordination and communication to better support PIs, chief scientists, and leadership. Consistent and transparent decision-making on all fronts and more prominent protocols and best practices. An overarching international strategic plan to help provide cohesive vision. Broadening engagement through its communication efforts to bring in new talent so that we have new leaders to step up when our highly talented current ones retire. Funding to conduct the follow-up science and data analysis that make the program so darn impactful. That is probably the biggest thing. So with that, I am so sorry I've gone over, but this is an important thing, and if anybody has questions, I hope Allison and I can answer them. Thank you. Anybody? Looks like Julie. Maybe I can run some mics up there. Da-da-da. Pass that on. Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. I'm Julie Granger, University of Connecticut. My understanding is that many of the very gifted analysts on these ships are soft money. So in trying to recruit new talent, that is the least attractive career choice right about now. So how can CLIVAR even do this with the limited amount of funding that it has? I just see this as it can't go on with this amount of funding, given that no one makes that choice willingly anymore, soft money.
So. Ken Johnson, I just wanted to say that GoShip is so impactful, and programs like biogeochemical Argo, it's really the base for what we do, and I want to say thank you. Really great.